does feel like they are a little bit, well, very close, and like stylistically close too, in the way that they both like Stalkers a lot. SKillous is incredibly aggressive, and honestly, they're both very solid and competent Protosses. Like, if either one of these guys made top 8 this season, I would not be surprised at all. But we're going to get right on into it. Spawning over in the bottom left-hand side of Inside and Out, it is SKillous.
And in the Northeast, we have the blue Protoss player representing Team Liquid. He is MaNa.
Yeah, definitely should be a fun one. Both of them, in fact, SKillous is the one that isn't doing the low ground gateway. So that's always risky, Nate. You know, that's kind of like a Wild West style, turning up to a duel. Except you don't have a gun. You've got something else planned. Maybe you've got your mate hiding in a building in the side, ready to do the shooting for you. Some cheeky stuff going on, and MaNa scouting this must be like, all right, you're going to be up to no good this game, aren't you? But I'm going to try and get down my expo regardless.
Yeah, there's the cyber cores going on, but we've seen so much of this, particularly on any map with a ramp going up into the natural, and we have a lot more of those this season, so it's been nice to see it, that it's not always that 2 gateway build from Protoss, but it can still be a lot to deal with if it is that big focus on units coming out. And that kind of is how Goblin was able to get the upset over Max Packs, which is that's the best reference I have for an upset in this season, because he's like, okay, as soon as he got him out of his base, he just added a bunch more gateways and went to kill him. So is that what happens this game? We don't know yet for sure, but MaNa does have the Zealot building just in case he needed it to kill the pylon, and it's so dangerous to risk canceling it, because if you don't get that Nexus up, then your life becomes a nightmare. But the probe sees, okay, Zealot is done, I can dip, and so he does.
Yeah, and SKillous is going back to his 2 Stalker days. Like, I remember Kevin making a lot of jokes, a lot of fun, how him and SKillous alone were keeping the 4 Stalker build alive on the ladder, which, you know, we'll see what he follows it up with. In fact, it will be the 4 Stalkers. So this is going to arrive very quickly. You do need units out. You need a battery at the very least. And so far, MaNa's Nexus hasn't started going up yet. And depending on what SKillous chooses to do, like, he could potentially start up his Nexus right now as well and not be too far behind at all.
Yeah, it's not like it got up crazy fast for MaNa, so the way that it's played out, Probe's going to go up the ramp, try to see more, but there is the battery to block it. Not going to allow him in, and he's got a lot of Stalkers. He's still got that Robo coming through. We haven't really seen a sign that SKillous is actually committing to big macro with the number of Stalkers that he has. If he had put out 2 more, you know, he still has a numbers advantage that can't really be matched, because the production simply isn't there for MaNa. If he wants to poke him, he definitely can.
Yeah, the advantage that SKillous has, if he has one, is the fact that MaNa doesn't really know what he's up against. Now, he's like, you know what? Okay. There's no air unit. You've got 4 Stalkers. All right, let's do this dance, do this tango. SKillous is getting out of Warp Prism, and that is where he's going to start being super aggressive, and maybe in multiple spots as well. Even warping in a few sentries now as well. I dare say they might just be for hallucinations and scouting, because MaNa looks pretty solid with his defense.
Yeah, Warp Gate finishing at the perfect time to push this back. Having the 4 versus 2 is obviously nice, but if he pokes down one of those gateways somehow and he's only got 3 Stalkers versus 4, then the Prism rolls up and he's able to reinforce. Things can get dicey very quickly, but I think that's a good comment to point out, though, that he has the sentries at home. If he wanted to do some sort of Giga all-in and just push it and try to kill him, he would have likely gone somewhere else. But what he might do is just pick up the Stalkers into the main before Blink is ready and try to pick off some probes, right? You have that one-shot potential, or at the very least, any pylons at the edge of the base, like the one that MaNa just started warping in right there.
Yeah, that was actually quite a nice find for MaNa to have. I mean, probes are still going to fall, and a Stalker. All right. Does get a Stalker for his troubles, though, on his exit, which, all things said and done, I think SKillous is probably going to be okay with that. You know, a little bit of damage, a little bit of poking, seeing that your opponent's committed to the Immortals. That's gas that's gone into that for sure. You saw that you had a hallucination in your base as well. You're the one that's got the Blink Stalkers on the go. I guess the one thing that he has to worry about is that's a stocky army for now, and if you've got Blink Stalkers only to deal with that, you're going to need a fair few of them.
Yeah, this where it gets really tricky, because if you talk about getting that blink early, the micro potential of it is very nice, but up until the point where it finishes, dealing with a double immortals and of course the possibility that he gets force fielded away without that blink, this can get ugly very quickly. Just one shield battery that is not ready yet to defend. Tries to force field his own ramp. We'll get a couple of these units. Very nice to grab one of the sentries there too. That's going to buy him the time he needs for that battery. And we don't have a prism out here yet. MaNa has one coming, but he can't immediately push it. So SKillous is going to get a little bit more time. He needs just about 30 seconds to finish up that blink a little bit more. And then things will start to get a little bit easier for him. But those two immortals anchored by the sentries are going to try to get it done in the meantime. Gets one stalker so far, continuing to push up. There's the additional warpins. More sentries for MaNa and juggling the rest of his units as the probes are going to get pulled by SKillous, attempting to thwart this attack.
These sad batteries, man, they're completely out of energy, and he doesn't have overcharge. He doesn't have the mana available. And oh my god, this is such a bad fight for SKillous. I can't believe he didn't have the energy available. It's like he was macroing too good with the chrono boost, and oh no, that's bitten massively in the butt.
He's like, I need blink to hold this attack. And then 30 seconds later, why don't I have energy for battery overcharge? What happened here? Now, he did get the prism across, so he does have a couple of adepts inside the main. All of MaNa's probes are going to run over to the natural. He doesn't have anything to defend there since he's been burning all of the warpins towards the front. This will make defending possibly easier. I think the battery energy is still a problem as the overcharge is gone. So not really an easy way around this. He rallied another immortal across the map too. So as long as he doesn't take too many probe losses back home, this is still a very difficult attack to get out of his base. And he's going to continue to warp it aggressively while there are still that prism in his main base.
Oh my god, he blinked forward, he blinked into it. He has to take out the immortals now, but the warp prism pickup's good. The two immortals are still alive, and my goodness, they are just chunking down those stalkers easily. And this little hit squad of MaNa, that did way too much damage. And I think it's gonna be ridiculously hard to clean this up at this point.
Yeah, now the batteries are gone. There's no hope to get another overcharge on this. Big blink over for the prism. Gets one of the immortals as well. Another one rallied across the map though to Muslim. So while he finally cleans them all up, Big Daddy Immortal on the low ground did have that barrier available, so he's going to be able to push right back up the ramp. The Stalkers have to engage into an unfavorable position, but if he doesn't, he's going to lose that natural, and I don't know how he comes back in this game on one base versus two. Even with the probes he's killed, MaNa still up 10 workers there. The Nexus is gone, and he recalls. So once this prism is destroyed, if it is, then all the pressure is off. So what can SKillous really do here other than just try to buy time? I don't know. He can't expand.
I mean, it's one of those situations as well where it's like you buy time, but time isn't on your side. Like, you've just got to go, haven't you? And dealing damage against MaNa, like MaNa can just hunker down here, throw down some shield batteries, get out more immortals, which is exactly what he's doing. This is just such a horrible position for the Russian to be in. Like, he's going to try and do something here, but look at MaNa. That is a great force field to start things off, though, and he's got adepts in the natural.
Oh, he's going to warp in another sentry, so he will be able to force field it one more time. We know that the recall was burned on the natural. That cooldown is very long, still about 75 seconds left. So he doesn't have enough to block the ramp once more, and that'll do it. GG. SKillous taps out, and MaNa goes up 1-0.
You know, sometimes, and when I say sometimes, I mean all the time, I complain about shield battery overcharge. You know, there's been like one moment in history where it didn't work out, and it was actually this man SKillous that said, "Hey, look, shield battery didn't save the game," kind of thing. It was like a game of stats versus Beyond or something like that. But in this case, not having shield battery overcharge really shows you how detrimental that can be. Because I dare say, a lot of units, maybe MaNa would have had to back off entirely there, but the fact that he could just sit there, take the fight, and he didn't see it popping at all. He had to pull the probes. He saw the seriousness of the situation. And wow, that little bit of poking there with the warp prism, it just signaled MaNa that he's going to go. And whenever I talk about MaNa, I remember this playing against him so vividly. If I poked MaNa, he was like an angry bear. Like, as soon as I poked with anything, he just follows a real old school textbook of RTS, and he's like, okay, I took damage, I deal damage. And very often he'd use stalkers to do that, especially blink stalkers. But here, he just did it with a meaty army, and it worked to absolute great effect. And There's a reason why he's doing so well so far in the group, and it's just because he's playing solid. Like, there's nothing super damn flashy. It's just good, solid, rounded play. And here, he caught SKillous massively off guard.
Yeah. And again, you know, a couple of things not panning out for him. Like you mentioned, he dumped all of his energy into chrono boosting out Blink so that he could hold the attack, and as a result did not have that overcharge. And when he did eventually have it, there weren't enough units to make use of it. So we move on from that and into Data C for game number 2. In the right side of the field, we have the red Protoss player. He is SKillous.
And spawning over in the south and west side as our blue Protoss, it is MaNa. I've actually been incredibly impressed with MaNa this season so far. Like, you know, the scoreline, it's not really a true indication of how he's doing. Like, he played the 2 leaders of the group, MaNa, or rather Lambo and Hero Marine, and he pushed him. He really did. He played really well. And here against SKillous, like, SKillous isn't easy at all. And the fact that he took that game like he did, yeah, I'm super damn impressed with how MaNa's doing. And, you know, he's a guy that's been around since the very beginning. He was playing Brood War before this, and he's still able to give these young guns a real run for their money.
Yeah, he's like so far past the point of nerves or really like overthinking a matchup that he just does his thing. Maybe he's not going at the speed of sound like some of these young, faster players, but he's typically got great strategies, good game sense, and he can leverage that experience and stay here competitive and stay in the mix in these groups. And that's what makes MaNa such a timeless player in StarCraft. And frankly speaking, just a funny dude if you follow him or any of his shenanigans, his videos and whatnot he puts out. He's a good dude.
Yeah, and I think about rivalries of MaNa in the past. I think about which player was actually the best in Poland, you know, back then when it was like Nurture, MaNa, and then you had the rise of a laser and stuff. Like, and I even remember MaNa before Team Liquid in Mouse Sports that long ago in the finals of I think one of the first DreamHacks. In that finals, pretty legendary finals of him against Lilbo as well. And then even more recent, where it's him against Serral, where everybody was like, wow, he has no chance, and he still went like 2-2 against Serral and could have potentially won again. It's just nice to see how well he's doing. This game, far more standard, and as I say that, we do have double low ground gateway. It's just MaNa has no intention, by the looks of it, of doing anything like a Nexus. He's got the super fast Twilight.
Yeah, okay. So interesting setups straight to the tech on both sides. And I was gonna say as well, when we had you know, the big shebang in Krakow and WCS way back when, you know, in Poland, MaNa was able to really get it done there as well with that top 2 finish and taking out guys like 4GG on his way and Pole. So really well done. He's been around competing forever, it feels like. I guess he has been.
This is really important that probe for MaNa does not go and scout, and it looks like it will be stopped here by a couple of Stalkers, but already SKillous is going to be like, this game's weird, man. Like, you've got 2 Stalkers up. I don't see a Stargate anywhere. You had that weird pylon in the bottom, and we see how SKillous is sending his Oracle here, or at least his units. I won't be surprised if he goes and finds out what that pylon's actually up to, because MaNa, he's avoided the very normal build, which is, you know, going for your, oh my god, he's going to scout that with a probe. Very normal Stargate opening and gone straight for Blink, which I'm very curious to see how this goes.
Yeah, and getting the early work done on this pylon can be really awkward as well, because you got that Oracle to deal with, but now you got the rest of your production is in an awkward spot. So coming in, getting the first work done on the probe, pylon is being rebuilt. Gateway did not even get to finish transforming. Now, it is just probes fighting against the Stalkers, so it's going to be a little bit difficult for SKillous to push through that, but the second Oracle is coming through, and that could be it with the probes. It's going to absolutely murder that mineral line. GG, we're going to game 3.
You know, I've seen it a few times today where we see somebody do something a little bit, you know, their own thing to see how they can do. And here it was doing a Twilight Council, later Nexus and stuff, but there is a reason why these Stargate openings are so freaking good, man. Like, you get info, you can deal damage, you can end the game straight there and then. And even though Stalkers do extra damage to Oracles, if you catch your opponent like that, holy cow, SKillous just showcase why you go and stick with the normal. But yeah, I mean, MaNa was 1-0 up. I think it's okay to test the waters, see how it's going to do against a really good opponent, because sometimes you do have these, prepared strategies. But yeah, that didn't work out whatsoever.
Sometimes they say it be like that. And now we're reset. It's going to be one map for all the marbles of this series. This is something to keep in mind, though, because we were talking about that the map scores as far as the groups are concerned. SKillous is currently 3rd in the group. MaNa is currently 4th. Before this series, SKillous was 4-2. MaNa was 4-4. But now it's going to be a little 4-3, 4-5 at 5-4 action. So still both keeping them both up in that spot. So I guess it almost kind of works out to keep both of them in those two positions. But this win would be really nice. If Skillous wins, then he's 3-1 in series, and it'd be very difficult for him to not make it out into the playoffs. So there is a lot at stake, and I wonder if he's going to keep up that cheekiness then in this final map.
Yeah, I mean, SKillous, he did already play Hero Marine. He's beat Cristiano, who's, pretty wild Protoss as well. Has yet to play Lambo, but beating MaNa, who is absolutely another midfielder in this group, that would put his mind at massive ease. But he has to do it here on Waterfall first. Spawning over in the bottom left-hand side as our red Protoss, it is SKillous.
And his opponent in the northeast, spawning as the blue Protoss player, repping Team Liquid, he is MaNa.
Very peculiar. Like, SKillous has, in this series, we've played 2 games so far. SKillous won the game where he went for the low ground gateway and went for the, very standard play. But he lost the game where he went for the double gate on the high ground. And yet he's going for the double gate on the high ground. Now, Waterfall is a very short rush distance map. Within regards to layout, it's very much reminds me of a Beckett in a way, just like that middle kind of crossover bridge, but maybe that's about it, besides being bottom left, top right. But yeah, I'm curious what his decision-making process is when it comes to, hey, this game went like this game went like that, but I'm going to go back to the game that I lost in, unless it literally is just the map or what he's comfortable with.
I think that we're in a place where there's pretty decent variance in terms of what you can get away with and what you can do on these maps. We have a lot of these air gaps that kind of set up for stuff like that Oracle that we saw on the previous one. So I think you definitely want to pick up that W here, because as you said, if he still has to play Lambo in this group, you're going to have a hard time just casually beating him, especially with the performance that Lambo's been giving in this group so far. So taking a loss here, pretty much having another one guaranteed. All of a sudden, the 4th place spot, everybody else is salivating over. You're like, okay, well, all we need is maybe one upset, and then if he takes a couple O2s, that map score can push somebody else into that 4th spot. But still plenty of opportunity available for SKillous, as he's at least going to get this map, or at least going to have one map from this series. And of course, anything is still possible. PvP, you have so many different builds that you can do, and as we saw in that last game, it's not impossible to catch MaNa off guard.
Certainly isn't. This game with MaNa, I think in the first game he went for a very quick robo, right? And then it was like, I'm going to defend with Immortals and things like that. And he did it very solidly. Like, he was clean about his defense. This game, going for the Stargate quite quickly. In fact, who is that going for the Stargate? It is SKillous going for the Stargate. On MaNa's side of things, he cancelled whatever building that was at the front, which I think was his own Stargate.
Yeah, I think he canceled the Stargate at the front.
And now, yeah, going for just a gateway. So looking for the very, very defensive setup here.
He does not want to get played. And that was like when we were talking about even just going back to the other PvP upset series with like the, Goblin and Max packs. The downside sometimes can be that you get that expansion up and you think, oh, if I get a couple batteries, I'm going to be safe. Everything's going to be fine. But even that air of comfortability and feeling secure can open you up to make that slip up and just barely underestimate, and then things get a whole lot worse. So Stalkers are going to come poke, uses the Adept Shade for vision. Got to be a little bit careful there. There are a couple of force fields available, but maybe not the damage to kill everything if he steps too far. And there he is, going to lock him in, as it were. I guess if he trades out to the Stalkers, those are very expensive. Would be nice to grab. Phoenix rallies over and lifts up a sentry. Maybe a slight question mark moment on that one for me.
I mean, he claimed the kill, and he distracted for long enough that it was like, hey, now I've got some adepts in your base, and I'm going to deal damage. Got to remember, when he turned up to this base, he thought there was going to be a Stargate. And the fact that it wasn't...
That's true.
There was quite a lot of mind game shenanigans going on both sides, especially MaNa's side. But so we got the single Phoenix, thinking it was a Stargate, and now we've got the Oracle, and he thought he had a faster Stargate because he didn't have the Nexus. There's definitely a lot of trickery going on here, and a lot of trying to play your opponent, not just the race itself.
It's certainly interesting. He's getting a Dark Shrine. So if the Oracle, or when the Oracle and the Phoenix go in, not only can he get some more workers, but seeing that will be very important. Because I believe he got a Twilight Council. He's going into Blink, but there's not a robotics facility. So that Oracle is his only form of detection for the time being.
That probe, by the way, it went in between where the Oracle is sat on the right side and where the Oracle was going. There are going to be quite a few units heading to this main, and I like the Phoenix being used here just to lift one of the Stalkers up. And look at that. SKillous dealing loads of damage. Might lose an Oracle for his trouble, but I think for 6 workers and quite a bit of lost mining, I think that was all right, you know?
Yeah, that's not too shabby.
Oh, and a Scout, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is here too, SKillous going in should have seen that Dark Shrine, remember? Yeah. So does that come into play? There is a Forge coming in. He does still have the Oracle. It's in his base. He's enough energy for 2 Revelations. So it shouldn't be impossible for him to deal with this, but like if he moves the Oracle out right now, and then things get ugly real quick.
I like that he's making this wall here. He's like, you know what? If you do have DTs, because he's seen it, but whether he's seen it or not, he is making the count. Okay, he absolutely 100% knows. Funny way of going about it, though. Like, not going for the Robo. He gets the Forge, which he'll be able to use to get his +1 pretty fast as well. MaNa using this little bit of control that he has with DTs on the map, just to kind of stabilize, get his 3rd out, maybe a little bit earlier than his opponent, which is a pleasant move.
And he does have a lot of Stalkers, so you get past the point of being concerned about the DTs. There's the Revelation, blinks up and gets the kill very quickly, and he'll be looking to take his 3rd base. But he's got the cannon, he's got the battery, so he's not super worried about that. And maybe wants to try and push things. But MaNa already has his blink. You know, he made that step a little bit earlier in the game, so his 3rd base is not super far ahead. How are you feeling about the state of this one? He is going to find MaNa's pylon in the bottom right and clear that out.
I think I much prefer SKillous's position here. Like, just having an Oracle on the map, you've dealt a little bit of damage. Like, when I look at the numbers on the field, very close, but just the way the game's gone so far, it just feels like SKillous has been a bit more feisty, and he's got a bit more of a lockdown on his opponent, and MaNa is kind of just waiting for his opponent to make a mistake, but it doesn't feel like SKillous has been making too many of those.
Nice concave here. It does have the shield battery to back MaNa up, but he'll get a couple of the probes rotating through, and the Observer is sieged up. You can kind of see everything that is going on over here. He's going to blink back towards this. I don't think the Observer can see the stasis, so he's like, okay, well, if I had baited half the Stalkers into this, then he could just crush the rest of his army, but the Observer knows 100% now. MaNa knows, okay, let's not blink into that spot, and everything will be okay. It does give him a decent point to retreat to until he gets picked off, though.
Yeah, I if I was MaNa, I'd be like, oh, that was lovely. I was going to say, if I was MaNa, I'd have probably killed that stasis, but then I'd have given away that there was an Observer there. Whereas MaNa was just like, you know what? I'm going to use the fact that he doesn't know about that Observer yet. And then he sniped off the Oracle. Very nice play by MaNa.
Yeah, and that's interesting to consider the implications there on his detection, as the robotics facility is still halfway done for SKillous. So while all of this is going on, MaNa Guardian Shield defending does get popped there. Stasis hits a few. Couple of Adepts run into the natural expansion of SKillous. They're going to get some probe work done. But I was going to say we might have seen the DTs come back into it. However, it will be will be easy now for SKillous to get observers. His robo is done. He did block his main base off, but it was only the adepts that came in. So, and he has a cannon at the front anyway, I suppose.
Yeah, with all those little engagements, like Resource Loss tab is still in favor of SKillous, and he's the one that is moving into the robo bay pretty quickly, whereas MaNa, he's going into fourth base and getting charge online. So we already see like pretty massive deviation about how these two are going to take this PvP, but those little skirmishes that just happened, I think MaNa's more than happy with how that went, mainly because of how well those adepts did. But if we look at that gateway flood, those 6 gateways that are coming online for MaNa, that is such a big deal when it comes to these supplies. It's a bit deceptive, but great shutdown of that base.
6 gateways finishing for MaNa as he gets his +1 in charge. SKillous on his way to the +2 attack, and he's going into disruptors, it seems. So no charge on his side of things. And I mean, we've seen the way that this turns out. If the Protoss that is going disruptors gets to like that 3 to 5 number and they can start dishing them out, then it gets really difficult to dodge them. But if you can land a big attack before they hit a critical mass, which is gateway, then your zealots can get the good charge surround. The stalkers are weak against those. You can blink up if there's just 1 or 2 disruptors and focus them. And it gets a whole lot more difficult to defend if you're SKillous. So the really big question then becomes for me is when will MaNa push? And it looks like it might be right now. I think the sooner the better, given the way that this is shaping up.
It's just hard on this map, man. Like that third base, you've got 2 ways into it, and they're both up ramps. So trying to deal damage on this map, like it feels this chargelet style. You kind of have to wait for your opponent to get out in the open, but SKillous doesn't really need to do that and can just fight at home. But if MaNa does manage to lure him out a little bit, SKillous could be in a lot of trouble.
I think you made a great point. He recognizes that too, and he's just kind of playing nice little tappy toes over here. Gets the disruptor back over to that high ground third after it fired the shot off. So he's being very conservative, making sure he doesn't accidentally move those boys forward or let them get ripped to pieces. Does try to dump a couple of zealots for a little backstab action, but they get very quickly picked up on. And for SKillous, ooh, just blinks that little front portion back. Nice attention being paid there by MaNa as he's gonna get a couple more zealots into that prism and try to make something happen. His observer will get picked, and we've got ourselves a nice back and forth PvP here, Benjamin. It's nice to have a series that isn't just that quick 2-0 clap.
We do have a game here, but I feel this is a bigger, stronger Protoss here that's just going to start bullying his way back across the map. And MaNa, look at his army comp. Oh my goodness, that was a ballsy blink, and he's blinking, but oh my goodness, these disruptor hits are big, and those zealots in the middle of the map, they can't do anything either. SKillous is handling this fight very well.
Especially with just straight up stalker versus stalker. It's worth mentioning one more time, he's got +2. MaNa's +2 is about to finish, but SKillous had it that whole battle, and he turned it into a pretty nice supply lead. 89 army supply to just 54 as he's going to push in, and he still has the disruptors. Yeah, you can try to blink the stalkers away, but the disruptor balls just need to zone you out while he picks off the cannons and batteries, what have you.
Boy.
He's done a great job so far. Blinks forward again, looking for the disruptors. Does have the zealots to help buffer, and that's going to catch the disruptors on the retreat, but the prism has shown up for SKillous. He's going to try to reinforce. This is that brief moment before +3 is done for SKillous, where the upgrades are completely even, but MaNa just needs to make sure he doesn't overextend while pushing this back. At the same time, he needs to protect that base and buy himself a couple seconds here to reproduce that army, as he's still a little bit down on the army supply. But talk about a great use of the zealots to get onto those disruptors. I think that's almost a game-saving moment for him right there.
Game saving, still absolutely mortally wounded. SKillous has more. He's traded better. Look at the resources lost tab. He's traded 4,000 resources better this game thus far, which is pretty insane. And SKillous, he's got a higher probe count as well. Amidst all of this chaos, he's got better tech. And +3, it's about to be done as well. It doesn't get better before it gets worse here. Oh, it's a nice shutdown of that warp prism, though. That will buy him time against the reinforcements.
And look at what SKillous is going up into next after this. As these disruptor shots pick up some zealots, he's getting Shadow Stride for his Dark Templar. He built the shrine on that west side expansion. So, assuming that MaNa is able to continue to hang in there, I think it will get way harder for him since he hasn't really made that prep for the DTs. If he just slides 5 of those bad boys you just warped in to that northern base into the natural while he's defending on the east side. I don't know how MaNa's going to be able to deal with that. He is sending some DTs of his own. But SKillous has 2 cannons, 2 batteries. The only thing these DTs are really going to do for MaNa, maybe get some probes, but perhaps more importantly, see the Dark Shrine on the other side.
Oh, probe hug. Okay. So the probes with the cannon dealt with that super well, by the way. That was really nicely done by SKillous amidst all of this, because this is not easy. And his own DTs getting into the natural of MaNa, and I think these ones, yeah, I just saw MaNa on the webcam there. It was a bit of a surprise, that one, and SKillous, he's just handling all this superbly. Great play.
Got a DT mixed into the army, a little Hail Mary play. There is not an observer immediately here to deal with it, so it's adding a pretty significant amount of damage. If he had like 2 of those before an observer shows up, I think things get ugly very quickly, but that's definitely a nice move by MaNa. Problem is, his natural has been deleted, and while he can try to do some fancy footwork against these Dark Templar, they've got +3, and now they have Blink. So even if he was to get his surround with Zealots, he can blink the DTs away. And that's exactly what he's going to do. Those bad boys, that cooldown is about 14 seconds for the Dark Templar blink, so he's got plenty to work with. And the only other thing there, SKillous observer got popped by the cannon. MaNa immediately warps another DT in. He's paying very close attention to that. So the detection game is still a kind of funky one. SKillous has 3 AFK observers in his natural though, so he can send those over at any time. Y'all come back now.
Certainly can, and more disruptors coming out. He's got a bigger army, he's got a better eco. MaNa's feeling it at this point. MaNa did some great micro with this. The Blink Stalkers on the disruptors